Joining us today for the webinar is going to be Marcus, the VP of Product Marketing for Haivision, and Ray Thompson, Director of Market Solutions from Avid. And today's webinar is going to touch base on MediaCentral Stream and how it is going to provide a very good experience for some of our customers today and some of your workflow. And right through that, I'm going to go ahead and go through the next slide here. Obviously, this is Oceana, again, CineSys development, integration, support. And we're actually a broadcast and media system integrator providing solutions, integration support for digital content creators. We help our customers improve their production pipeline from ingest to delivery and beyond so that they can focus on growing their business. Some of our customers outlined here, NBC Universal, The Rockets, Tyler Perry Studios, HBO, and a wide variety of customers that we have offices out of Houston, Dallas, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, and all of your favorite cities that you may touch base on. From here, I'm going to actually hand this over to Haivision and go ahead and have them present.
Hey, everybody. Thanks, Shirgwayne, and thank you, Petra. And thank you, CineSys, for having both Marcus and myself here today. My name is Ray Thompson, and I'm the Director of Market Solutions here at Avid, and I'm appreciate you all taking the time to be with us today. If you want to go to the next slide. So after today's webinar, you should have a good understanding of what MediaCentral Stream is, a good understanding of the partnership between Avid and Haivision, and CineSys for that matter, the workflows that are now possible as a net result of what we're doing with Haivision and SRT, and then the benefits of the combined solution. Next slide. So we'll do introductions to kick it off, and then I will go through what MediaCentral Stream is, and the recent announcement of MediaCentral Stream, and then the Avid and Haivision partnership. And then, like I said, we'll talk about the workflows that are now possible, both for on-prem environments and in the cloud. And then I'll hit on some benefits real quick. We'll also get a nice demo here from Craig Wilson, who is one of our evangelists at Avid. And then we'll answer any questions you guys have. So please ask questions and make it interactive throughout. And we'll answer all the ones we can as we go through. If you go to the next slide. All right, so today you'll hear from Craig Wilson. He is, like I said, our product evangelist at Avid for Media and Cloud. You have Marcus Schuler, who is the Vice President of Product Marketing. Here he is now. Hey, Marcus, how you doing?
Hey, Ray. Good to be here. Thank you, everybody.
And then, and I'm Ray Thompson, and like I said, I run product marketing here at Avid. And then you already heard from Shirgwayne Charles, who is an Avid ACSR, I should say, and a senior engineer at CineSys. And so we're going to talk to him again shortly. All right, cool. If you go to the next slide. So before the pandemic, there was a significant shift in the market towards leveraging commodity internet for doing things like contribution and distribution, for that matter. And one of the key things that sort of enabled that was the advancement of a variety of different protocols that were brought to market by different companies, Haivision being certainly one of those. And so as they became more secure, it really offered media companies not only the ability to cover more ground with fewer resources, but it also lowered the cost in general of doing production because it was much cheaper than using, say, satellite or fiber. And so as that sort of started to take hold over the last really several years, Avid was certainly keeping an eye on that trend. And then once the pandemic hit, it certainly spiked, right? Mainly out of necessity, because people turned to IP as a way to do contribution and/or live feeds for really a variety of different productions. If you watched, Jimmy Fallon, for example, right? He did a lot of his stuff from home after about a week or so when they sort of had time to sort of think about how they were going to do those types of things, right? And so long story short, you kind of saw it everywhere in sports and news and in live entertainment. People were really turning and pivoting very quickly to really relying on IP. So in response to not just that, but certainly, like I said, before the pandemic, Avid really already had started down the path with Haivision and figuring out a way to integrate more directly into Avid production environments and ability to take in those incoming IP feeds and put them into Avid production environments. And so long story short, we released MediaCentral Stream. So MediaCentral Stream was announced back in January, and essentially what it is an agnostic software-only tool set, runs on a standard VM, a very lightweight basically server. Basically, it ingests those incoming streams, and it turns it into an Avid friendly format. In this case, it is XDCAM 50. We're taking in H.264, by the way, and then we're basically putting that in real time into the Avid production system. So this, for the downstream work, really doesn't change anything. So if you're used to working in an Avid production environment, your workflow is really not going to change. You're just going to get more content faster, and you're going to be able to do edit while capture workflows, especially in news and sports environments, where you can then turn content around very quickly. So whether you're doing highlights or longer form production, you can start editing content as soon as it's being written to the Nexus system, and that's all coming in off of MediaCentral Stream. So if you go to the next slide. So like I said, this is sort of what MediaCentral Stream is comprised of. What it really enables is, like I said, IP production. Today, in the first version, we can take in both RTMP and SRT. SRT was a great pick, not only because of our relationship with Haivision, but because SRT, if you're not aware, is an open source protocol. SRT has been built not only into, obviously, Haivision devices, but it's also built into several other cameras, encoders, software devices, all of which can initiate an SRT stream. So what Avid really wanted to accomplish with SRT as a protocol was to enable the ability for a broader array of devices to be able to do contribution into an Avid production environment. And with SRT, we certainly accomplished that. And then our relationship with Haivision has really developed over a couple of years, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment when I bring on Marcus. But long story short, what this also allows for is the ability to deploy either on-prem to enable contribution over IP into Avid production environments there, or you can also now do contribution into the cloud. So we're enabling news and sports production and or remote live production to happen in the cloud. Before we had this as an offering, it was all file-based, which was great. And we've certainly done a lot of work in the cloud with file-based content in terms of how we're getting it into and out of the cloud. But this gives us a way now to do live events and do so in the cloud. Next slide. All right, so some of the key features is basically this is a virtual ingest device. It's running on a VM. It's agnostic, so it will take in different protocols. Again, V1 was SRT and RTMP, but down the line, we will also take in other protocols in the future. And we can also take in live view streams as well, which is actually using SRT as a handoff between a live view receiver and MediaCentral Stream. And then once you get it, it basically, like I said, puts it into an Avid-friendly format and checks it into the environment so that users can now see that content as soon as it's available, either in Media Composer or MediaCentral, and they can start working on it right away, whether they're in the building or outside the building. And they can also then start producing content and ultimately publish and push that content either to play out or to social media. So this has been, like I said, an effort that's been going on for over a year and change, I would say. And we really started discussions probably 2 years ago. The tech preview back in 2019 at IBC, and it has now evolved into a full-blown offering. And MediaCentral Stream is, by the way, offered as a subscription. So it is a subscription-based offering, whether you're running that on-prem or in the cloud. Next slide. So some of the key benefits, right, to this offering is one, before MediaCentral Stream, if you wanted to get a live stream into an Avid production environment, you had to go through some technology hurdles, if you will, in order to route the stream maybe through some type of an ingest device, then come maybe SDI out of that ingest device, maybe it's an encoder or decoder, and then you're basically sending it into maybe, say, an airspeed or even a fast serve. And then ultimately that gets into an Avid environment. So this really alleviates the need for all of that and allows you to really just take in those streams directly right into an Avid production environment. So from a simplification perspective, it really simplifies things on the technology side. It's a very easy tool to add, right? You can add it to an existing Avid production environment today that's running on-prem, or you can actually try deploying it in the cloud. But like I said, a lot of low-hanging fruit, if you will, is in on-prem environments where we've gotten tons of requests from, all different types of companies to basically have an offering like this, so they can, more easily manage their incoming IP feeds, which, as we talked about earlier, has only continued to grow in terms of the amount of content coming in over IP. And then in terms of what we're enabling, like I said, on-prem, either news or sports production, over IP or for doing remote live production. All right, next slide. So let's, in summary, right, MediaCentral Stream provides simple, reliable IP contribution into an Avid production environment. It allows you to preview incoming streams, and we'll talk a little bit more about what's possible in terms of previewing as well, in terms of what we're offering, and we'll get to that with Marcus in a moment. And like I said, it's really simple to deploy, and it deploys either on-prem or in the cloud. So let's get a little taste on this next slide with what it is.
Streams, camera cards, satellite, studio, bonded cellular, edge devices, the ever-increasing array of incoming source options challenge news stations of every size. A critical challenge has been a fast and seamless way to get streaming formats quickly into the hands of users, particularly if a customer wants to work in the cloud. Software-based and deployed on-premises or in the cloud, MediaCentral Stream handles the most common streaming formats of SRT and RTMP to get media securely to your team to turn around stories faster than ever to any platform. There's also integration with the widely used bonded cellular platform LiveView. Lowering your overall cost and running on premises or in the Azure cloud, MediaCentral Stream lets you scale. It's a simple, reliable, and secure way to capitalize on the latest media ingest workflows.
All right, so there's a quick run through. We'll get a full-on demo here in a moment from Craig. If you go to the next slide, I want to bring on Marcus. Marcus, welcome. How you doing?
Thanks for having me, everybody. Nice to see. I actually saw some familiar names and people that are attending, so it's nice to see everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Marcus, for being here as always and participating. So if you go to the next slide, Wayne, we, Avid and Haivision, like I said, started having a discussion, geez, it seems like 2+ years ago. So Marcus, I was wondering if you just kind of walk through sort of how the partnership developed, talk a little bit about SRT as an open source protocol and that how that evolved, right, within Haivision, right, in terms of being a protocol and an open source protocol, and then just sort of the value we're bringing together. If you kind of just run through that, that'd be great.
Sure, yeah, thank you very much. So for those of you who don't know, Haivision, we are a leading global provider of mission critical real-time video streaming and networking technologies, and we've been certainly around in the IP contribution world for a long time, in broadcast media workflows, especially for live content. This is where the sweet spot has been for us, and we've been working with Avid, as Ray mentioned, for a couple of years now, getting ready for this partnership, which is really all about enabling live IP contribution directly into Avid MediaCentral Stream environments. So I guess the origin of the conversation started with the SRT protocol. And SRT is a technology that's very important in this use case because it enables anybody to do live IP contribution over all kinds of networks, including unpredictable networks like the public internet, which for ubiquitous events that are happening anywhere around the world at any time, internet is always an option that's available, and it makes it easy as a technology that you can use for doing IP contribution. But one of the challenges is that the internet isn't always super reliable. For those of you who leverage it, you probably experienced the challenges with video quality, especially in platforms like what we're using right now. We've all seen what happens when traffic picks up and suddenly network performance is a little bit, let's just say, suboptimal. And for broadcast type use cases where the quality of the video is really, really important, technology like SRT has enabled a real kind of fundamental change in what's possible using the internet, because SRT, the protocol itself, provides a mechanism to ensure that the quality of the video is preserved even when the network performance isn't ideal. And anecdotally, going back to last year at the beginning of the pandemic, when suddenly everybody was shifting to homework and, sorry, not homework, working at home, maybe doing their homework at home also, but basically everybody was suddenly using video for collaboration, for remote workflows and all kinds of things. And we saw that there were huge challenges in terms of maintaining video quality because internet performance was so unpredictable. And yet, partners of ours who were working with SRT, even when they were struggling with other aspects of the workflow, their video quality using the SRT protocol was always very, very good. Example last year that was notable was the NFL draft. When they did the entire thing virtually, they were leveraging the SRT protocol to get feeds in from all of the prospects, all of the teams, everybody that was participating in the remote virtual draft. And they were leveraging all kinds of different networks, from home Wi-Fi to their cellular links, whatever they had, which created a risk of all kinds of different challenges of video, and yet they were able to have high quality video from all of these different contribution sources using SRT, and that's sort of the background to SRT. And I think we're going to get into the SRT Alliance a little bit more in a couple of slides, but I think that this technology brought us and Avid together as a way to solve the problem of making sure that you guys who wanted to leverage IP workflows to get real-time contribution into your systems would be able to do that. And that's what the SRT protocol has allowed us to do that. And as Avid, Ray was mentioning with Avid, they've been taking that and building it into their MediaCentral stream workflows. Now, in terms of the partnership, we formalized it back in, I think it was late January or maybe early February. And really what this partnership was about was providing Avid with Haivision technology, Makito X4 encoder, and the Haivision SRT gateway in particular, as components that they could use in tested, certified, supportable workflows to ensure high quality IP contribution into Avid environments. The partnership has really been about how the solutions from Haivision and Avid can work together to enable your IP contribution workflows for news, for sports, and any other live event in general. So that might have been a long way to get around to saying that our technology plus Avid's technology is opening up some exciting possibilities in terms of simplifying how you get content into your editorial workflows. So should we jump ahead to the next slide and see what we're talking about more specifically? Okay, no, it's SRT Alliance. Okay, so let me go into SRT Alliance in a little bit more detail. So for the people that are joining, may not be familiar with SRT protocol, but if you're if you're on this webinar, you're probably going to be very interested in understanding how it can help in your workflows. And essentially, SRT protocol is a technology that was invented by Haivision back in 2012, 2013, was productized in Haivision products around that same time. And then in 2017, we took the protocol and open sourced it and created a group called the SRT Alliance with the goal of taking the open source SRT and promoting its adoption among industry technology partners and end users. And so the SRT Alliance is coming up on its 4-year birthday now. Avid was a very early company to join up in helping us promote SRT, along with other companies like Microsoft. And now we're at the point where there are over 450 or even more technology companies who are on board with SRT Alliance, leveraging SRT in their workflows, building it into their solutions, selling it to their customers. Most recently, AWS joined. So I mean, it's although not really a standard in the truest sense of the word, it has effectively become a de facto standard because of how broadly it's used for contribution and high quality internet video workflows for contribution. So I think that's a quick whirlwind tour. I think for the conversation today, it's important to keep in mind that with SRT, you can enable workflows that are both on-prem and in the cloud, which is a big part of what Ray and the Avid team are building. And so yeah, so now Haivision's solutions are part of that workflow, and CineSys, of course, as a partner for both of us, is able to help you guys put together your solutions to solve these challenges with IP contribution. So these are the products that are part of the Haivision Avid partnership. I mean, CineSys is also a Haivision partner and are also able to build other workflows additionally involving Haivision solutions. I talked about Makito X4 encoder, which is really the encoder that Most of people will be using in their IP contribution workflows. The Makito X4 is a high quality, low latency 4K capable encoder that can either be used for 4 channels of HD simultaneously or one channel of 4K UHD. It's 42210-bit capable, which can be important depending on the kind of workflows that you're looking at. There's another option in the Makito X family called the Makito X, which you see below to the left, which is a 1-channel encoder for H.264. The Makito X4 does both H.264 and HEVC, which can be an important part of workflows when you're trying to build out high quality distributed workflows. For instance, one of the areas where we find there's a lot of interest when doing IP contribution is enabling not just the receiver to receive the SRT stream, but to enable collaboration where other people are able to see what's happening, even though they're not perhaps at the facility where the ingest is happening. And you know, a typical example would be producers or other technical staff who have been working from home or are not on site and want to see what's going on, and using Haivision's SRT gateway technology, which is a solution that enables you to take in those SRT streams and then replicate them and distribute them to multiple different people in different locations. There's a way for the facility to receive the IP stream for contribution and ingest into the Avid workflows, and for other people to see what's coming in, the live stream coming in, or even if there are return feeds going back to the field, see what those are on various different devices, including a solution from Haivision called Play Pro, which is available on mobile devices for free, for set-top boxes or other devices like that, depending on what your needs are. So there are different ways of building solutions to enable not just IP contribution, but various collaboration type workflows, which are certainly important when people are not able to be in the facility all at the same time. So that's a quick overview of the key products that are part of this solution and the overall workflow.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Marcus. So next slide. Yeah, so this is sort of just high level, obviously, but it kind of shows you sort of an end-to-end flow in terms of when you're out at the acquisition side of things. You're using your Makito to basically encapsulate the incoming feed and then send it via SRT to MediaCentral Stream, which is then writing it into that Avid-friendly format. Like I said, today it's H.264, although we are about to release another, I guess, point release of MediaCentral Stream here in the coming weeks, and that will do H.265 as well. And then you're going to turn that into an XDCAM 50 file. And again, in the new release that's coming in another couple weeks, you'll be able to do other bit rates, not just XDCAM 50. And then you write that to Nexus, and then everybody has access to it as a growing file to be able to do fast turnaround type workflows. So, and like I said, this can run either on-prem or in the cloud. So adding this to your Avid environment, really, all it really entails is having the ability to initiate the SRT protocol from a Makito, and then a MediaCentral Stream software running on a VM. And that's pretty much what you need in order to add this capability to your existing on-prem Avid environments. All right, if you go to the next slide. And then this is kind of what it looks like if you're sort of looking at the bigger picture. So one of the things Marcus mentioned was leveraging the ability to use, say, SRT from a mobile device, which can also initiate that SRT stream. And we'll see this in the demo too, where you're actually initiating that from a mobile device and then being able to do contribution over mobile, which, again, mobile journalism, as well as just leveraging IP, is certainly a huge thing, whether you're doing news or sports. Or just doing it as a straight up contribution feed for a live event of some kind. And then of course you're using the Haivisions to initiate that SRT stream. And then there's obviously a whole bunch of settings within the Makitos that allow you to leverage things like managing the latency budget and so on, depending on what your use case is, in order to do that contribution and make it as seamless as possible. And then of course downstream, nothing changes for the Avid users. They're still doing the work the way they always would. They're just getting this whole new sort of palette of content coming in from multiple different places on top of their traditional feeds, and then they're able to then go ahead and produce what they need to for their linear or digital broadcast and distribute it over either social or digital platforms as well as linear. And then if you go to the next slide. So one of the other big important parts here was the fact that we can now do contribution into the cloud. So Avid and Microsoft certainly formed a partnership a number of years ago, and you can go to the next slide too here. That partnership was probably 5-6 years ago, and we renewed it in 2020 for another 5 years. And long story short, one of the early things that we did with Microsoft was to integrate the Nexus file system, which is our Avid file system, into the Azure Blob storage stack. And the reason why that's important is because a lot of the workflows and/or services that you're going to see from Avid either today or coming in the future will really benefit from a lot of the work that was kind of a heavy lift on the front end of the partnership between the two companies to do that integration. And that's really the key differentiator between what Avid has with Microsoft versus, say, other cloud service providers, is the fact that this integration between the file system and their storage is just that. It's an integration. It's not a lift and shift move of the file system into Azure, but rather a deeper integration. So again, a lot of the benefits of that include things like a better experience for end users when they're trying to edit, say, using Media Composer remotely from pretty much anywhere, or using MediaCentral to access the content and find content on Nexus using MediaCentral search capabilities. So there's a lot of benefits that certainly we're all starting to see. Certainly, we have a great partnership with Microsoft, and then once content is sitting in Azure, you can certainly do a whole bunch of it with it, including things like using artificial intelligence or machine learning to automate metadata enhancement and improve searchability right through that process, as well as content processing, right? So there's a whole host of things you can do with media services that have been baked into MediaCentral that can all happen once stuff is sitting in the cloud. So there's a whole just universe of possibilities once you get it in there. And one of the key components for us, like I said earlier, was being able to do this off of live feeds, and specifically protected, secure live feeds, and that's why we went with SRT. And so that's obviously a huge component that was missing before, and now it's there. So you're going to start to see, I think, a lot of emerging workflows coming out of Avid on the news and sports and remote live production side in the cloud as a net result of this partnership. If you go to the next slide. So here's just a quick summary of sort of what we're enabling, right? It's the ability to do contribution from anywhere using SRT over commodity internet or other managed networks, as Marcus mentioned, into an Avid production environment for fast turnaround workflows. This can happen on-prem or in the cloud, and it's leveraging a variety of different methodologies in terms of how you can deploy it, whether it be on-prem in the cloud. And once it's in the cloud, like I said, you can do a whole host of different things with it once it's there in terms of automation and enhancement to the content, whether that be content processing or adding metadata, just as a few examples. So if you go to the next slide, I think we'll get to see the demo here. Yeah, so one more. I'm going to hand it off to Craig, and he's going to actually walk you through how this works.
My name's Craig Wilson. I am the product evangelist for Media and Cloud at Avid. And what I'm going to take you through, as Ray said, is really just a short demo of what MediaCentral Stream is and how it works in action. As you can see on my screen here, it's running through a web browser. So I'm running this through just through Google Chrome on my laptop. I'm just going to make this full screen for me now, so I've got a bit more screen real estate. And what you can see with MediaCentral Stream is that I have 4 channels that I can use for doing recordings. I have one channel that has a stream coming in at the moment. If I hover my mouse over it, you'll see at the right-hand side now, it gives you some information about it. It tells you the bandwidth, for example, number of audio channels, the frames per second of the stream that's coming in, and the size, for example. And MediaCentral Stream, from a user perspective, is intended to be pretty simple and straightforward to use. And I think that's one of the real beauty about it, is that it's taken a lot of the complexity that currently exists for workflows where we're taking streams into a production environment. It really takes that away. So what we're going to focus on is this tab here called the remote console. So this is the user end for what a user would use to actually bring streams into the system itself. So here at the right-hand side,
from this burger menu, you see I have access to ingest templates, routing or writing templates, and also some crash record setting. The first thing we'll look at is the routing or routing templates editor. So in the routing templates, this is where I can go in and I can define templates that I want to use to do particular recordings. And we'll come back to these in a second. But for example, I can put in what would be the stream address. There's obviously some information that you need to have around where the stream is originating from, what the host for that would be, for example, any passphrase you may be using, particular encoding, and you want to put a passphrase against this for additional security. You can also define which port. This would be the port that's sending you and forwarding the stream, and also then the protocol. So of course, as Ray has mentioned previously, we're supporting here both SRT and RTMP files, streams, as they're coming into the actual system itself. So we'll come back to this in a second, because I will actually, set up a route and do a stream with that. We also then have ingest templates, and ingest templates are where you can define, for example, the codec that you want to ingest, the raster size, the workspace on your Nexus that you want to write the media to, whether you want to have, a default naming convention. For example, here you could have the input channel, the date, the time as a default if you don't type a name in. And because here I'm working with my MediaCentral production system, I can check in the media, I can generate a thumbnail, and I can also enable this as a growing file, because that's really one of the key workflows, of course, because it's really all about getting media from the field very quickly into the hands of your production team. And I think that applies across news, sports, live production. It really is about just taking the stress out of that and getting the media into your production environment for people to then, of course, then go off and use. And then the final thing we also have is we have some crash record settings. So this is where I can actually select, and I can do this on an individual channel basis, which of those ingest templates I want to use. So I'll show you in a second. I can do different types of recording into a crash recording, or I can actually set up a recording and add some more information in. So the first thing I really want to show, though, is about doing a very quick recording and then seeing that come into the MediaCentral system itself. So the first thing I could do, as I mentioned, is I could just do a crash record. So if I just do a crash record, all I need to do is press on this button here, and what you'll see is that the channel goes into record, and I then get some on-screen display settings to show me that this channel is in record. Now, these on-screen display settings are configurable on each of the channel. You see here we have OSD settings. So say, for example, here I wanted to enable house timecode. I can just enable that and save it, and then there's the house timecode appears. So that's a feed that's now coming into the system. Here I'm just looking at a preview of it, but now if I switch across and go into my MediaCentral Cloud UX client, this is, for those who don't know, MediaCentral Cloud UX is a browser-based tool from Avid that works in our production environment. So using this, I can, of course, access and edit video, as well as do a whole host of other things. And we also have the MediaCentral Cloud UX panel inside Media Composer. So what I'm showing you here in terms of the workflow is something that could easily be done inside Composer as well. So here, this is the folder that is predefined as part of that ingest template for the media to come in. And so I can now see, if I make this a little bit bigger, that I have this clip coming into the system. It has this icon here, which shows me that this is a growing file. And then if I double click on the clip here, it's going to load in the video player, and that is now going to allow me to go off and to edit it. Now, as I mentioned, this workflow is also enabled inside Media Composer, and this is where I think one of the key benefits of the MediaCentral Stream workflow comes in, is that the downstream workflow for your production team doesn't change. So this is exactly the same as if you were accessing and using a file that was coming in through, maybe some more traditional, SDI, ingest route directly into the system itself, if you're recording it from the studio or something like that. So from a user perspective, if they're working in MediaCentral, they're working in Media Composer, they really, really don't care. But there's the feed that's coming in. I can see it's a growing feed, but I can now play back and I can access it. Now I realize, through Zoom, it may look choppy and things like that just because we're using, Zoom to do that. But it gives me direct access to the feed. And of course, I can then come in and I can, mark in and out, and I can begin to edit, just drag and drop that clip into the timeline. And I could carry on and work with that. And then, of course, what I can do is then take that content and then distribute it. So I could publish it to the studio. I could publish it to social media using MediaCentral Publisher, which is part of MediaCentral Cloud UX. I could publish it to our web CMS system and do all of these kind of things. So as I say, that downstream workflow really, really doesn't change. Now I'm going to switch back just now to MediaCentral Stream again, because I want to show you, setting up a route as well. So you can see there that recording is just finished. But this time what I want to do is I want to show you how simple it is to just, create and access a feed that's coming in using those templates that we looked at earlier on. So MediaCentral Stream has 4 channels. On each of the channels, you can select what you want to have. So here, I'm going to create a routing. Here are the templates that have already been created. So I'm just going to choose this Haivision Play Pro one and then select to route. And there you can see almost immediately the feed begins to stream into the system. And actually what you're looking at here is my iPhone. So, if I just bring it up to the camera, you might be able to see that, I have an iPhone here. And I'm using the Haivision Play Pro app to stream out. And I think that just gives an indication of, the number of different devices that you could have that then give you this possibility. One other thing to mention about the app is that I could also access other streams that are coming in as well. So if you imagine I'm a reporter or producer out in the field and I want to see a live stream that's coming in, I would also be able to access that using the app as well. But exactly the same as we did before, this time I'm going to go in, I'm going to create a recording using one of the templates. I'm going to change the file name. So this is Craig Phone ingest. And this time, just go ahead and record. And again, in a few seconds, you'll see it's going to go into record. So there it goes into record. If I now switch back across to my MediaCentral client here, and I just refresh the view I've got of the folder, there is the feed that's now coming in. So, it's really, really quick between establishing the stream, sticking the stream into record, and now I'm able to come in and work with it as if it was any other feed that's coming into the system. So I think for news production, live production, sports production, there's lots and lots of options. And I think the other thing that's worthwhile mentioning is that everything I've shown you is actually using systems that are deployed in the cloud. So it is about that potential journey to the cloud that a lot of customers are looking for at the moment, and taking workflows from on-premises into the cloud as well. And MediaCentral Stream, I think, is an important component part. So Ray, with that, I will stop sharing and I will hand it back to you.
There. So, one of the things that I wanted to do now, first of all, one other thing there just with Craig is that I think he mentioned there at the end that all of that was running in the cloud. So I think pretty much since we started doing these demos, they've all been running in Azure. But like I said, we certainly support on-prem deployments as well. So a key component to this whole partnership, of course, is the partnership between Avid, Haivision, and CineSys, right? So I was wondering if you could just kind of talk a little bit more about how you guys go about sort of these different projects, how you interface with customers, and how people can maybe take advantage of what we're showing today.
Yeah, sure thing. So one of the things that CineSys, of course, as a media system integrator does is we absolutely love partnering with our manufacturers, Haivision's and Avid for sure. And we've built up a very good relationship with some of our customers that they trust us to actually go out and make these decisions for them, such as going out into some of our larger clients. Some I can't really mention because of NDA reasons, but But some of our clients that we actually integrated, and we have some of the MediaCentral, and this would be actually one of the products that would work really great in their environment. And we partner up with Avid, of course, and in this case, would partner with Haivision, figure out exactly what the customer needs, wants, and look within their budget and figure out, okay, does this work? Some of the questions that they may have is, simply as to, why would we go with SRT, being that it's, UDT based, and of course, we would get these answers for them within the partnership and figure out exactly what would be the right fit for them. Sometimes it may not be the right fit for certain instances where they don't have cloud, and we would come with a solution where it may be, using Haivision, using Avid, may not be, it maybe just be pure on-premise as opposed to having a cloud solution. So we take these partnerships very seriously, and we go out to these customers and we present it to our customers and say, hey, this is exactly where you guys need to be today to forward face some of the problems that you're trying to solve. And that's where we are, where we usually take our customers to. We take them to new heights, bleeding edge of technology, and we make sure they're safe and secure. Obviously, this is a very big thing for security now, and Haivision has a very good reputation for security. So does Avid, and CineSys takes that to the next level and supports those two integrations. So pretty much with this partnership, it allows us to continue providing for our customers, continue providing for the next step in between going to the cloud, and that is really the next iteration of broadcast and media systems throughout the sports, entertainment, and most likely the more of the media space. So with that being said, I think go back to you for that.
Thanks, man. That's great. And do you see a lot of your customers leveraging IP nowadays? Do you guys
absolutely.
A lot?
Absolutely. I think a lot of our customers have moved to the cloud, and some of it, moving a lot of the MediaCentral, taking advantage of the MediaCentral systems that have been introduced to the cloud, taking more advantage of having, your virtual clients. We've actually gone ahead and even have some of the Nexus storage moved to the cloud. So a lot of our customers have taken that approach now due to the pandemic. It was said a few years ago before the pandemic that the industry is moving towards more of a cloud-based solution as opposed to on-prem, and this has only accelerated some of our customers' advancements towards the cloud, and we've actually seen a huge jump in the increase of cloud utilization in the last couple of months, actually.
That's great. Well, thank you again so much for having both Marcus and myself on today. We really appreciate it. I think there's one more slide. Is there? Might be the. Oh yeah, the last benefit. So I think everything you just said is right on, because we're seeing a lot of the same things, right? And this sort of shift post-pandemic to as a service, away from capex to opex, and an increase in the usage and/or migration towards cloud-based deployments for production are all things that we've seen as well, just like you said, and it's really accelerated as a net result of the pandemic. And this is certainly one of the big enablers, right? Is being able to take in IP feeds. And there's so many examples of, not just ways in which operationally it makes the organization more efficient, but certainly economically it lowers costs. For example, there's plenty of use cases out there that show how live events being produced using IP, far fewer resources on site to pull that event off, and most of those resources can stay back at the studio where they can produce the event, taking in those feeds as sort of net return and/or just overall contribution feeds into that sort of studio environment and produce it right from there. We've seen college sports happen where the announcers called the game from home using IP feeds, sent either to and from the stadium. So we've really been kind of impressive, really, the way the whole industry has pivoted out of necessity, right, because of all of the lockdowns. And again, this really speaks to what we're trying to sort of further enable, which is scalable solutions that are extremely flexible, more integrated, so less calisthenics needed in terms of integrating and taking in some of these newer streams, and then enabling both on-prem, but of course cloud-based workflows, which again, this was a really key component, it securely and providing a nice level of consistency in terms of business continuity for customers. God forbid this ever happens again, but I think if it ever does, people are now looking at how they can basically set themselves up for sort of a disaster scenario like this, where they can continue production and continue business continuity. I want to say thank you to Marcus for joining us today. Marcus, great job as always. Shinwayne, thank you so much for your contributions as well and for hosting. Awesome job. And Petra, thank you. And to CineSys for having us today. If you guys do think of any questions, don't be shy. Feel free to reach out at any time. We'd love to talk about this more. So please reach out, and thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.